So in order to make sure that we only see requests that are for us, so for this user ID in the end, we can go to our requests getters, and here on the requests which we're fetching, I no longer want to get all requests, but instead I want to filter for requests that have our ID as a coach ID. So therefore we can utilize the fact that in a getter we can take more than just one argument. Besides the state, we can get access to our getters, then also to the root state and to root getters. And the root getters are what I need here because the user ID is part of the root store. And there we have a user ID getter already. That's the getter which will be useful now. Here we get the coach ID by reaching out to root getters.getter.user ID, that's the getter name. And then here we want to filter the requests, which we got, and go through all the requests and check if the request coach ID is equal to the coach ID we extracted here. And only these requests are then the requests that are returned here. This also means that we should change has requests and not check all requests in our state, but instead simply use our requests getter here by reaching out to getters.requests so that we check the filtered requests and not all requests. Now, as before, I'll replace the unused arguments with underscores here. But now we should have a setup where we really only see the requests made to us as a coach. So if we save this, if I reload and I send a request to the first coach, which is not us, we don't see this here. If I now register as a coach though, I'm a coach, and I then send a message to me, which of course doesn't make too much sense, but for the moment that's the only way we can do it. If I send this, we should now see that request. And we don't. And the error actually is quite subtle and a bit hard to spot. Or actually it's easy to spot as soon as you console log all requests, for example, to see what's inside there. If you do that, you'll notice one important thing. If you contact a coach, and we then inspect the logged getter, we see that the coach ID is undefined. And that's the problem. That of course ensures that we're not able to filter. Now it's undefined because in contact coach, where I set the coach ID, where I get it from the route, I access this route ID. Well, that's incorrect. This should be this route.params.id. That's the correct way of getting access here. So now with that done, if I go back and I send a message here to the first coach, this is a test. It still doesn't show up here under requests as it should. But if we now register as a coach again, and soon we won't have to do this over and over again. Soon we're going to add a backend and then the data will be stored permanently. But for the moment we have to register. And if I now send myself a message here, this is a test. Now we do see this message and only this message here under requests received. So now that filtering part is also working, and with that indeed the entire app is kind of finished, but of course only in this dummy version. One important thing is missing, and that's a real backend where we store our coaches and where we store our requests, and where we then of course also fetch the data from. So that is what I want to work on together with you in the next lectures.